So this young lady is amazing. She's nothing short of phenomenal because she took her personal testimony and how she helped others and built Angels for Life. And this is an angel here on earth. Do you know, God, we entertain some of the most beautiful people and don't know who God sent us. It's something called Destiny Helpers. So I want to bring our personal Destiny Helper, Julia Williams, to the stage. This woman is nothing short but phenomenal.
Thank you everyone for coming. This means so much to me, y'all don't even understand. Angels for Life is actually, it started just as a thought and it turned into a passion and a purpose for me. And I have not stopped or slept on it since. I've been behind the scenes working on it, and I stepped out on faith and decided I was going to start a fundraiser for it because I want to be their advocate, I want to be their resource. A little behind Angels for Life, this is my story. My husband is currently incarcerated, and nobody would even know that if you didn't know me, because I still walk around with my head high and smile on my face, and I'm still able to take care of my children without missing a step. I have a village. God has blessed me with a village. God has blessed me to have a good job and be able to maintain my home without him even being present, even though he's away for the reasons that the justice system thought he should be away. But we're still a family at the end of the day. So because I was able and blessed to be blessed with a family and support people turn into family, I want to be able to be the advocate and resource for those who don't have that. Because I think we fail to realize that everything that's out here is for the inmate. We only think about the inmate and what they're going through, but we never take time to think about the families, the children that are being left behind, the children that have to go to school, the wife or the dad or the grandparent who's taking on the responsibilities, or the uncle or the aunt who's with the children, even themselves, because we are all human, even as adults, we still need a resource. And we also want to be advocates for the family. When they can't get answers, we want to step out and do it. And I always say, when I'm ministering at my church on Sundays or on Bible study, I always say, I'm not going to get up and preach about nothing that I ain't been through. So if I haven't been able to do it for my husband, I'm not going to try to do it for your family. So I am actually walking on a purpose, and this is my story. So if you didn't know it, you know it now. I am temporarily a single mother. It's not for long. God put him away for his own good. And I know when he returns, he's going to be a bigger man of God. That part I'm not worried about, because I would not be able to walk on this journey and step out on my face and do what I'm doing had he been next to me, because God wouldn't have been able to bless me to have a testimony. So I know this is my purpose, and I'm going to pursue it until I can't pursue anymore. And like I always tell people when I go out, I don't care if I have $1 or $1 million in the bank with this organization. I'm going to do what I can. If it has to come out of my own pocket, I'm going to do it, because not every mother like myself is blessed to be able to do it. So I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that you took out your time today to come by. Spread the word. Let them know we're here on your program. We have a follow us, keep up with us, so you can know what's going on. Spread the word to your family and friends. If you know someone that's dealing with it, let us know. Give us their information. Let us connect with them, so we want to help. But furthermore, thank you again. We're going to jump right into it, so I hope y'all are ready. I got some amazing panelists. And I guess you already introduced the panelists a little bit, so I'm going to have them come join me up here on the stage. Any order, doesn't matter. Everyone out there, we will have a Q&A session, so feel free to ask questions to the panelists directly or to myself. We're open book. I'm an open book, so anything you got for me, I'm going to answer it today, because I don't want to go into something and people are blinded. I want to be 100% transparent, because God has not brought me this far for no reason. So please join into the Q&A session as we get there. Don't be shy. Tell us your experiences if you have some. started with the panel, and I'm going to start with you, Brandon. So go ahead, Brandon. Can you tell us about your organization and your why to your organization?
Again, I'm Brandon Glaspie. I represent Prison Youth Ministries and Fathers of the Youth of Tomorrow, originally from the west side of Chicago. Been in Houston since 99, 98. I always say the wanna be a baller era is when I came in, so I like to remember that. But the Prison Youth Ministries organization started back in high school when I was a sophomore in high school, and that basically built off being birthed into what I call a lifestyle of negativity, a lifestyle of bondage, a lifestyle of corruption. Most people, especially in the days of today, especially our youth, glorify these particular lifestyles. But like what I tell them, I said, when you're born in it, you don't have to be a convert or have to put it on. It's just something in you. Because I have uncles, I have a dad who passed away because of the lifestyle choices. I got uncles again, 30, 40 years in gang activity, vice lords, gangster disciples, as well as other factions of Chicago, you know what I'm saying? And what most people don't realize, we all be related. You know what I'm saying? We just live on certain different parts of town, but all of us, when we come to grandma's house at Thanksgiving, all of us be related. But when you're growing up in that, and your dad, for X amount of years, been in prison, your mom, with the mentality, she ended up going to prison, doing fed time, you know what I'm saying? In the later years, you kind of figure out, okay, who do I have? You know, who's gonna be there to take care of me? And I always say this, if I had a consistent father figure or someone there, I would have been better than just a C student in school, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, to God be the glory, I'm here where I am now. So I thank God for my grandmother and for the mentors that she brought in my life, whether it was through TSU, other university factions when we came to Houston, as well as different mentors back home in Chicago. So that's why it was put in me to birth Prison Youth Ministry, to be that mentor, to be that outreach for those of the youth who grew up like I grew up and who's still in prison in that paradigm whether it's drugs, violence, or day-to-day struggles. We're there no matter where it is. It can be Haverstock, it can be Kelly Courts, it can be Galveston, it can be Katy. No matter where they're at, we go there at night or during the day to let them know that, you know, we've been there and this is where we're trying to take you into the day's time.
Thank you. So knowing that, you know, what you're doing and how you're doing it, and you're helping our young men and our youth. If you had a program like Angelz available to you growing up, do you think it would have been beneficial to you?
Definitely. Especially when it came to resources. In the early 90s, my grandmother, she was very big in the city, whether it was putting on fashion shows and on her own buildings and different things, but life happened and she had to take care of the grandchildren, and certain resources weren't available. When things came up missing or life started to happen, having that financial support, because a lot of it didn't come from family, let's just be real. And if it was an organization such as Angelz, it would have definitely helped with, like I said, resources, making sure kids needed what they needed or had when they went to school, rather than being absent and not having these certain utilities as far as backpacks, pencil pens, basic stuff. Shoes, good haircuts. That's one of the things we do in the Humble ISD district, backpacks for barbers, to make sure kids at least have a nice haircut on the first day of school to make them feel good. So, you know, things like that.
Thank you. So we're going to jump over to Ms. Tasha.
So don't ask me to say that.
can you kind of explain that?
Hey everyone, I'm Natasha. So I'm new to Houston. I moved here from South Carolina about 2 years ago. I didn't know the direction that I wanted to go into. I'm a nurse first. I knew I was a nurturer. Nurturer by heart, but you fell into my lap in 2018. I lost my cousin to gun violence. I'm at 23. So I started talking to the children in the juvenile detention center. And I realized I had a passion for it. But in the very, very beginning, I realized it was just us. We were raised, I have a good mom, I would say that, but we were mainly dealing with my grandma majority of the time because she was always working. She kept us hidden from a lot of stories that we needed to know, like about our fathers and where they were. I learned later on in life that they were incarcerated, so she felt like she made the best decisions. I decided to go full-time youth mentor when I moved to Houston. So people would ask me, well, what is your direction? I wanted to be a part of every organization possible, trying to figure out different directions. I think I'm a nonprofit for nonprofits, if that makes sense. So I wanted to help the kids who age out of the system. I wanted to create programs for autistic children. So I finished school just yesterday. So I'm super excited. Honestly, I could go on and on about why this is important to me. But just like you, I think I wanted someone who loved me as much as I loved people when I was younger. I needed someone, I decided to become the person I needed when I was younger. Didn't know a lot about financial literacy, so I was really happy to see that back there. My daughter's 16, so I'm trying to teach her different ways. I'm also raising a son in this world that we live in who's autistic, so keeping him away from incarceration is going to be my biggest challenge because every man in my life, I feel like, is incarcerated. Yeah, and I'm not so.
Okay, given that, since you brought that up, for me, I have an 8-year-old now. When this kind of happened, she was around 6, I think, 6 or 7. And I know for mental health, I watched her change. I watched her looking for an outlet to talk about it, you know, and she would go to school and talk about it. And, you know, we kind of don't go to school, right? You know, but, you know, for that and being in you, with us trying to have that aspect within our organization, just making sure we have that resource available for our children. I know you deal with them, and I just kind of want to get your feedback on, you know, for children of that age, they don't really know what's going on. They don't want to bother us as parents because they already see us going through it, and they don't want to, they feel it. You know, children, when they're your babies, they're kind of connected, they're connected to you, and they feel your pain. So they want an outlet, and your friends seem to be their outlet, even when they're in the 2nd grade or 1st grade. So what is your intake on that, and you know, how does your resource, you know, benefit us for our organization to be able to use that?
So I would say starting out honestly would be key. We're in a new generation. These kids need to know the truth. When I was growing up, like I said, we were hidden from a lot of things. My daughter now, even at her age, I tried to leave an open door policy and she still talks to her friends. They're most important. The resources that I would have would be definitely getting them connected in a space where they need to hear the truth. It's not just from you, but just from other people. Kids are very resilient if they know exactly who you are. Where they fumble in life, just like with me, is when you learn who people are, it's almost like a trust is broken. And so they can find the people that they think at their age that they can trust. But they're getting their information from other kids who are in the same exact situation that they're in. So without those resources, they're depending on each other. For an 8-year-old, that is very tough. Because I remember being the kid who I wanted to go to the father-daughter dances. You know, my mom did the best she could, but also it's good you have a village. So continue to lean on your village. Push them away when you have those days, because kids feel everything. When you think they're not listening, they're listening. When you think they don't know anything, they know everything. And talk to her. Continue to, every day. I have this thing with my kids. I ask them every day on the whiteboard, what do you need? And it works. Because sometimes writing it down, which I learned from TK, is really important because kids don't always have that voice. Or, we hold on to everything because you don't want your mom stressed out. So I'm going to figure out how to do it on my own, or I'm going to go out here and do it on my own, or get it on my own. And really, you just want them just as much as they want you.
I'm trying not to go here. Okay, so my quick question will be for Trey 9. So Trey, can you tell us about your organization and your why?
Sure. So, by the way, Trey 9 is a stage name I've had since I gave my life to Christ way back in the 90s. So I'm curious when everything about him, baby in hip hop. I grew up on the north side of Houston. If y'all are familiar with Movie Park, kind of Fulton, Cavalcade, Tidwell. That's where I grew up, and I was fortunate. I had a mom and a dad in my home the entire time. My dad and my mom worked very hard to provide for me and my sister. But I looked around and I saw a lot of their peers that didn't. And so after high school, I began this journey of being a Christian rapper, right? And fortunately enough, I was able to start a record label, put out 18 Christian hip hop albums, 5 of which are my own, and start this journey of evangelism, going place to place, even other countries, rapping and telling people about Jesus. But what I realized was music could only take them so far. It would draw them in, people would come to faith in Christ, and then they'd be left to deal with the problems that society would throw at them. And I just got real convicted in around 2008 that I should do more than just make good music that would minister to people. And so I began to explore that. I said, God, I had a janitorial company that was real successful. I had 24 employees, I was making good money. And I said, God, if you want to take that away from me and put me in full-time ministry, I'm willing. Just give me a sign. 2 weeks later, someone called me, said, hey, we're interested in buying your cleaning contracts. I said, God, if they buy these contracts, I know it's you. But if they don't, I'm going back, and I'm just going to focus on business, and I'll support a ministry of some sort. When they bought them, I just said, I don't know how this is going to work out. So I know the beginnings of starting a nonprofit and how nerve-wracking that could be, and also how scary it could be. I went all in, and as a result, I connected with through Mary Prince, which was the wife at the time of Jay Prince, if y'all familiar with him. Connected with him about doing our first outreach, which we call Hip Hop Hope, in 5th Ward, off of Jensen at the Prince Complex. He graciously opened the door, and we started reaching young people through hip hop and the Word of God. I saw the effectiveness and fruit of it. Then we started going to other neighborhoods. We went all the way as far as Brookshire, we were Spring Branch, just the South Side, everywhere. We were 12 hip hop hopes across the city and some of the most highly underserved neighborhoods, and it was effective. But once again, we were a mile wide and an inch deep, and I wanted to go deeper. About 7 years in, I kind of got the hang of running a nonprofit. People began to find out about us, and a guy from the corporate world named Dennis said, hey, God's calling me out of the corporate world into ministry. I want you to show me how to do ministry, and I'll help you with the business side of a nonprofit. We connected, joined forces. From that point on, we scaled back to primarily 4 neighborhoods. And our mission statement is we exist to transform communities through intense discipleship, mentorship, and services. And so Sunnyside is one, Greens Point is another, Forum Park, which is southwest near A-Leaf, and then out west in Brookshire. My why is because I realized that God had blessed me with a mother and a father that never went to jail, was always present in my life. And I felt like it's my obligation to give back to those very same neighborhoods that I came from, the very same people who were struggling with having a dad incarcerated, watching single mothers have to raise my friends, and I wanted to be involved. I wanted to be in the game, not on the bench. Plus, it's very clear in scripture that I am supposed to go ye therefore make disciples of all nations, not sit on my butt and listen to sermons every Sunday. And so I was very convicted by the word, very convicted by how fortunate I was to have a mom and dad in my home. And that's my why. And we always want to collaborate and partner with organizations like yours because we can't do it on our own. It's just too much. There's too many people going to prison. There's too many kids that have no men around. There's too many mothers who are struggling to figure out what they do with young men. There's too many girls that are seeing the wrong example of what a man is, and even listening to the music that tells them the wrong direction. And there's not enough people getting involved to do something about it. And so I look forward to a partnership with actually all of you guys at Eyes on Me.
So knowing, looking at your background, knowing you and your organization, we know you go into the prisons and you minister to the incarcerated individuals as well. When you go in there, we do know they have families outside. So can you give me some intake on, what they're telling you that their families need, but you're not able to provide it, and how Angelz for Life could possibly step in that gap and we could become a wraparound service?
Yeah. So I'm a volunteer with the state of Texas to be able to go into prisons. We generally will go in, do a hip hop concert, draw people, share the good news, and then afterwards I've got about 500 letters, and I try to respond to each one of them. I'm probably 2 to 3 months behind usually, but these are men and women that are really broken, and sometimes at that broken state you can speak to someone more so than when they're out running the streets. But a lot of the issues for me is because I'm a volunteer, I can only do so much. If I start doing favors for everybody and calling his mom or his wife, then I could lose my volunteer status and it can jeopardize our involvement in the prison. So to partner with you, that's not an issue because it doesn't create a risk for me. And then our organization can in turn partner with you to provide resources or whatever we can offer. One of our favorite things to do is when people get out of prison. A lot of the men don't know how to be fathers. I've been a father. One of the things I skipped over. I've been a father. I'm a father of 4 right now. One is my oldest daughter. She's technically my stepdaughter, so know what it's like to be a stepfather. She was 13 when I came in her life. She is 26 now and married. And then I had 2 sons that I adopted who were homeless under the bridge at downtown while we were feeding the homeless one day. Their fathers, one is dead and the other one is in Mexico. And then my only biological son. So my sons are 16, 14, and 12. And so I know what it's like to be a dad and be faced with a lot of challenges. And so when men get out, one of my highest priorities is to ask them about their kids and how we can restore that relationship. And oftentimes they're coming out with nothing, no support, how do I get a job, I got my background. And so I'm always partnering with companies, trying to find out who will hire these guys. We're always working with other ministries to find out who can give them the resources, whether it's, we provide a lot of clothes because we have a clothing pantry in our mission center in Greenspoint. But there's so many other things. The highest priority is a job. And then when they get a job, how to communicate on the job and not get fired. Because their communication skills are that of incarceration. So they're used to, you talk to me disrespectfully, I'm not gonna let you talk to me. And so teaching them humility and all the things like that become a high priority. So I think we, as older guys, are more spiritual fathers and trying to guide. So that's my main thing. Working with you and other organizations on the outside allow us to not be at it alone and also not risk our status of being able to go back into prisons.
Absolutely, thank you. So I have a question for the overall panelists. You can answer it one by one. I want to get your aspect on judgment. Starting this and then having to be able to be freely to tell my story. It doesn't change who I am. It doesn't change the asset that I bring to people or to my family or what I'm doing in the community. It doesn't change anything about me. But we do get that judgment, just like I'm sure you all get that judgment for trying to work with incarcerated individuals or behind the scenes. So can you give me an example or your aspect on judgment, but while you're doing something that's your passion and that's your story?
Judgment is hard. When I first became a nurse, I worked for a Christian-based hospital. And back in Greenville, I became this wonderful youth mentor, but I was really nervous to tell the parents that I was dating a woman. And so I kind of hid that lifestyle away from me, but it didn't take away what I brought to the table and who loved me and things like that. So I struggled with that for a very, very long time, but I also realized I held myself back. And so I wanted to give kids a voice, and me at my big old age as an adult, I didn't have one. And I'm a strong believer, just like you said, I don't give advice in places where I've never been. But along the lines of turning tables, I lost my sister 2 years ago. And she watched me become this person, I guess that she didn't recognize, but she also thought I was doing really good things, and I had never been through nothing, and I think she wanted to be perfect. And for me, the biggest thing, one thing that I wish I could tell her is that I was not, that I struggled every day with judgment. I struggled with just being happy with who I am. And so she left here thinking there was nobody else in this world who understood her and the things that she wanted to do in life. So I think for me now, I'm just in a space where I'm done being part of it. I am who I am. I'm gonna love on these kids because that's what I'm supposed to do. If it wasn't, I just wouldn't be here. And also, I think you're gonna have to push forward. But I love when you said the other day on the phone, the most things, I had no idea. So I was like, not Miss Julie. And so it made me really happy for you to say it so gracefully. And that's just your story. We're all gonna have a background, we're all gonna have a story, but I feel like some of the best leaders are the ones who are not afraid of their story.
That's right. That's good.
Judgment, I would say, coming from the family I come from, folks will look at that as being judgment, where your dad was this or your mom was that. So society, statistically, you automatically get thrown in that category. You know what I'm saying? Oh, he gonna be another gang banging criminal. You know what I'm saying? With 4 or 5 baby mamas and such. You know what I'm saying? But to God be the glory. I'm not on the news and I ain't put nobody on the news. That's what I always tell people. You know what I'm saying? You gotta give thanks where thanks is given. So, because judgment comes in many forms, whether if it's in that category or developing prison youth. It was judgment with that, just with the name. But what I tell people, I said it was a Republican office who helped establish that mission statement. So, being that I'm always siding with Republicans, just a little bit. Just a little bit. But, you know what I'm saying? You'd be surprised where the favor comes from, where other judgment will arise. You'll be surprised. So don't get discouraged, don't get too withered away on where the judgment, whether it's at home or family, friends, this side of town, that side of town. God definitely will show you favor beyond measure in other areas of life.
Thank you. Trey, would you like to answer the question as well? Are you good?
Yeah. I'm not sure as far as the aspect of judgment that you would ask of me. What would a more direct question?
So for you, because you want to know these incarcerated individuals, do you get any judgment for doing that? Because I mean, like you said, you grew up with both parents in your home. You're taking care of your family, but you want to go reach somebody that's not even on your level.
I feel like I'm more supported. I keep pretty good people around me that are very supportive. I don't really get to hear a lot of the people that are, judging those that I'm serving. I mean, we exist to go into neighborhoods that are highly underserved, so if you're not going, then you shouldn't be saying anything, right? And so oftentimes people don't say nothing. They might say it behind closed doors, but if you watch the news and you see that every single night, to me, it seems like you'd be rooting for these people. And so maybe behind closed doors a lot of it happens, and maybe there's stuff I'm just not thinking about right now, but for the most part, I feel very loved and very supported for the work I do. And all the volunteers, we have wonderful volunteers. One of the things I like most is we're Black, we're white, we're Hispanic. We're trying to get some more Asians involved, we just can't seem to put them in. But no, we are very diverse, and so we kind of cover all. When you're mobilizing 5,000 volunteers a year, you're getting people from churches that are getting off the pews and coming out and serving in neighborhoods they were afraid of. And you see the police departments are right there, and they're even supportive, because they don't want to have to do some of the stuff that we have to do. Some of them will let us take a person without arresting them because they see something in them. And so I think there's a lot of support. You find more support than you would judgment if you just start doing something.
Thank you. So we do have someone that's an attorney in the audience, and I kind of want to just give him a question real quick since we're on this subject. Mr. Benny, he's in the office. I want to phrase a question for you on the legal side of these things, because I know for myself and my family, when I was able to sit down with my husband's attorney after the fact, and he wasn't able to, he did his job. He did what we paid him to do, absolutely. He did an amazing job. However, I really wish he would have been able, or had something like Angelz to say, okay, look, I know you're hurting. I know you have kids. Your husband has expressed this, because my husband actually they became something like friends, as they were fighting this case. And I just want to get your opinion on the families, that attorneys do see. Are they, is that something that attorneys are able to provide resources for that family, if they have it available to them?
Oh, okay. So, in short, it's possible. I don't think it's very common though. It's something that I think when you're a lawyer, typically some of the things you try to do is set expectations. Like this is the system we're going into, and it ain't fair, especially if you're Black or whatever. You kind of set the expectation and let people know. I will say that, but typically the focus is on the client, and because that's what you're there to serve. I think it would probably be better and better in everybody's interest if the attorney could actually point to some resources. I think usually by the time the case is over, it's a matter, and you usually juggle a bunch of other cases, but a lot of times I think that ends up what happens, and I think the family is on to go on, kind of go at it alone, but I think it would be more helpful if a practice actually said, here's some resources that actually help you at this particular time. Here's some organizations like yours, and I think you kind of see that there's a need, and all of you realize there's a need in this space, and here are some organizations that are actually here to help people in your specific situation. And I think actually I will offer myself to put you in contact with all of you, put you in contact with some of the criminal defense bars to actually make yourself available to those clients and say, hey, we're gonna step in for this specific person's family. So I'm throwing that out just because I think I do agree that it's absolutely necessary. Typically as a lawyer, I'm here to do the case, and then I gotta move on to the next case, and that's kind of the way a lawyer's brain is focused. But I do think it would definitely be of service to say, here, before I leave you to go to the next phase, here are some resources that help you in that particular phase. So I think that may be something and I would love to partner with y'all on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're at the end of our panel discussion, so we would like to take a few questions from the audience, if we can keep them at a minimal, under 1 minute, so we can get them done if we want to move on to our next stage of the event.
This is Brother from Chicago. The question I have for you think it's 2018 to 2019, being from Chicago, from what I read and understood, that even though we had a black president, there was like 1,100 black men that died in Chicago. Where is the disconnect? There hasn't been a huge disconnect. That's my question. What's your take on that?
That is a extremely awesome question. The disconnect is in the community. Because we got to remember, when we elect a public official on that high of a stage, that's everybody president. That's just not black president, black America's president. That's everybody's president. Where the disconnect, especially back home in our communities, where that disconnect happened is the feet on the ground. So many of our fathers and forefathers, before me and before them, lost control or gave up control to the youth. So what I like to say now, we have a nation of crash dummies that's running rampant, don't care about life, don't care about the existence of life, not alone don't want to carry morals or anything in that category. So for me and my comrades, what we've been doing, and other comrades in other cities and even back home in here in Houston, is just gearing up, gearing together, building a self-policing community that can actually go in and either pull out the negative or mentor those who want to be mentored to think differently. Because that's where the problem lies as well. To think differently about the out versions of life and how do you see life. Because just a previous example last night, picking up my children, I sent them on a mission of responsibility at Showbiz movie theater in Humble, Texas, right there off of Wilson Road. And seeing so many of our children that look like us just going ripping and rampant, running in and out of the movie theater, cussing the employees out, wanting to fight the employees. I'm just looking at, they couldn't be no more than 16, 17 years old. And majority of them were girls. I would have thought the boys would have been in there trying to do something, but it's the young girls arguing with the employees because they can't go back in, or they trying to fight, or they just hanging. So even though I was one lead, I still had to take an initiative to say something. You know what I'm saying? But if we have more with that mindset to say something, just don't look at them, act stupid and crash out. We gotta put ourselves in that position to say something and pull them up out of that mindset. Because as they continue to go down that lane of that mindset of disrespect, they're gonna be coming in your homes. They're gonna be in your churches. They're gonna be wherever you are to come disrespect you and disrupt your peace. So that's why there's a disconnect, because we need more individuals to actually stand up and say something.
This one is for Miss Julia. Julia, how do you feel adding services to where you're able to collect donations for individuals that were wrongly accused or may need assistance with bonding out? I know as a mental health trained officer, now chaplain, the bulk of the arrests come from mental health. And becoming a behavior clinician, I think if we had your service like Angelz for Life, and we're able to bond those individuals out that have been arrested for criminal trespassing, but have been in a Harris County jail for 2 to 3 years because they cannot make a $500 bond. Do you see yourself adding that to your organization?
Absolutely down the line. Just because the biggest focus right now is the families, but definitely willing to assist those families and being able to bond those individuals out on a case-by-case basis, but definitely being a resource for that family itself if they were to reach out to us on behalf of that individual. And on a case-by-case basis, I definitely see Angelz for Life being an advocate and a resource for them as well.
Okay, fine.
everybody's boots on the ground, what gaps do y'all see in the law? So have y'all, what have y'all run into and say, you know what? There's a big gap here, and I don't think anybody's even thought of it. And I think and unfortunately, a lot of people making the decisions are not in a position, half the time they're not anywhere close to the boots on the ground. So the question is, what gaps do you see that should be addressed at some point? And we're gonna have a legislative session in a few months. It needs to go to Austin and say, maybe I should look at this space because it's affecting my family or it's affecting some of the people's families I work with. Any spaces that y'all see that y'all would, if it could be done, that you would like to turn around?
From my opinion, I would say transparency. In communication. I think there's a big gap in transparency and communication, especially when it comes to the justice system. I was the wife that sat in the courtroom and just watched it happen. And the reason it happened like that was, I honestly truly believe, because it was an election year. And it was a big election year. The judges were being bumped off of their seats had they not made the right decision. And I just don't think it affected my family. I think it affected everybody's family who was with that particular lawyer. And I don't think that's fair. So I think it's definitely a break in communication and transparency in the justice system, if you ask me. Anybody else want to answer the question?
I was going to say communication as well. I think my answer was kind of similar to yours. I think it's just more of a break in, also just better understanding. I don't know, but more like training. Like Ms. Robin said, a lot of the arrests are mental health. And we see online all the time where there's a kid who's autistic or a man who's dealing with mental health issues that's just arrested and something happens. But people aren't trained on how to actually deal with them or just, really able to talk about it. So I think it's going to be communication and also like keeping that training polished and realizing that mental wellness and mental health is at an all-time high. And it's not just likes and social media, but people really need to understand it and start talking about it.
Collaboration with organizations like ours, I think there could be room for that. I don't know what it would look like because I know that there's, kind of a fear of what could happen if this and that and this and that, but there's just not a lot of collaboration and prevention that could probably be implemented. We don't work with the government. Why? I mean, why not, But they simply, it's just separation of church and state, there's, most of the funds go to people who are non-faith based. While some of the faith-based organizations are out here leading the way. Now there are some that are taking money and blowing it on the wrong stuff because they don't know how to manage finances, but I think you can always put accountability systems in place. And so whether that's collaborating with a lawyer like yourself, collaborating with a judge in Brookshire, the judges send the kids to us as a part of their community service, which is great because they can rake the yard while getting mentored. They could cut the grass, they could do cleanup while we're able to mentor them and minister to them. But when the Harris County judges send them to us, that's the gap we need to fill. Get the judges to start sending the kids to places, community centers like ours, where, we're faith-based. We are going to tell them about Jesus. But I think when you're looking at what they're facing, I think most parents would be okay with that if they knew that it would change their kids' lives. And I wanted to encourage all the parents because it ain't just single parents that are struggling with teenagers wilding out. The 2 kids I adopted, they're being raised in a great home. They see constant modeling of Christian character. They've seen every inmate possible live in our home with us that will tell them, you don't want this. They have everything they could ask for. I live in a middle-class neighborhood. They don't know what it's like to grow up off North World or Grease Point. They don't know what it's like to live in Sunnyside. They don't know that struggle. But my middle son wants to fight everybody. He'll fight the laws. He will, once he hits that anger trigger, and it has a lot to do with his adoption and, just the wounds of ages 0 to 2 and when you're in the room, and the womb and the trauma and the science of that. But still, it takes a village. And nowadays people are fearful, to even say something. There was a mother yelling at my son last night, and I was like, you tell him. Like, tell him about himself. She was like, I'm sorry. I said, no, he needs to hear it. Whether, adults, authority, somehow we got to find our way. It's just exactly like he was saying. We got to find our way in there. And, whether it's in a movie theater or whether it's amongst friends, whether it's in a community you didn't grow up in, like, if we are present, we have probably about 12 kids in a swimming pool out in Black Horse Ranch right now. From Greens Point, just doing life, just swimming, just having fun, getting to know somebody, getting to know some male figures that are following Jesus, that are doing the right thing. They need to hang out with you so they can be inspired to be a lawyer someday. They just need to be around some people. So that way when they're at the movie theater and a gentleman like him steps up and says, hey, y'all be respectful. They're not ready to fight him because they've already been around some good men and they found that all men aren't bad. All men are not your father who got incarcerated and left, or your abusive father. Those wounds, but fear has captured us, and we're just afraid. And God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And so somehow we got to find our way away from fear and walk it in the spirit and the power we have.
You guys are welcome to stay up here with me as we shift over, or you can have a seat down there.
Would you jump in this picture?
Oh, absolutely.
I want to promote